see.
Okay, are you
Some
ready?
kids in
Is it
one
on?
area.
Yes, YouTube's on, you're saying,
Okay. All right, welcome, everyone. I am Candace Hunt, Chair of the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board. This regular, the MCSAB, is being held today, Monday, June 15th, 1:00 p.m. The notice of this meeting, which included the date, time, place, purpose, and identified the attendance available to the public, has been posted. Minutes of this meeting will be recorded. This meeting is being called to order at 1:03 p.m. on Monday, June 15th, 2026. As I call the names of the board members, please state the location of your presence for this meeting. Jay Carney. Carol Gary.
present, conference room, Jackson, Mississippi.
Candace Hunt, present, conference room, Jackson, Mississippi. Aaron Meyer.
Present conference room, Jackson, Mississippi.
Ben Morgan. Candace Robbins.
Present, conference room in Jackson, Mississippi.
Marcy Scoggins.
Present in the boardroom, Jackson.
A quorum is present for conducting a meeting. Now, if you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, if you would bow your heads for the prayer. Heavenly Father, we gather today as a board with an important responsibility to steward the education of children in your community through the charter school authorization process. We ask for your wisdom to guide every decision and decision made in this meeting. Grant us a shared commitment to do what is best for students and families. May every action we take reflect fairness, excellence, and a genuine desire to strengthen public education for all children. We place this meeting and all who participate in it into your hands. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
The mission of the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board is to authorize high-quality charter schools, particularly schools designed to expand opportunities for underserved students. Now for the adoption of the agenda, we have 3 items that need to be added to the agenda. Item L, Butler Snow, the FY27 contract. Item M, LaFleur Legacy. Item N, Call for Quality Schools decision. I will entertain a motion to add these items to the agenda.
So move Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second?
I second Carol Gary.
Any discussion?
What was the third item you said?
Call for Quality Schools decision. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay. At this time, I will need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So move Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second?
I second Carol Gary.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? To wait for them. All right, any opposed? The motion carries. And now for the approval of the April 13th, 2026 work session. I will entertain a motion to approve. And please identify yourself for the record.
Carol Gary, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second Aaron Meyer.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. For the April 13th, 2026 regular monthly meeting, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes, and please identify yourself for the record.
So moved, Marcy Scoggins.
Is there a second?
A second, Carol Gary.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. For the April 16th, 2026 Applications Committee meeting, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second? I'll second. Candace Hunt. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Wait a second.
Huh?
Yeah.
We need a second from somebody that's on
Oh,
the committee.
Okay.
On the
Because
committee.
if I was a part of it, I didn't know that I could. Okay.
Well, I know I'm supposed to wait for this, well, second Candace Robbins. That's fine.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a quick question. I can't remember. Was I at this meeting?
Yes.
Okay, this was it. Okay, I was thinking so. It's April, so, okay. Thanks, Aaron.
It's just the two of us, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. For the chair report, I do not have any updates at this time. If, for the executive director report, Dr. Karmachari, if you'd like to share your report.
Thank you. Thank you, board and community and stakeholders who are here today. Good to see everybody. As always, the first thing I'm going to draw your attention to is just the recent newsletter. Always has great information, great pictures, and again, Bree does an excellent job with that. That goes out to several different people, not just to our school leaders. So if you are not on the list, please let us know and we'll be glad to add you to the list. The second item under my report is the Mississippi Student Funding Formula Charter School Adjustment. This is a chart that we received from the Mississippi Department of Education Office of School Financial Services. Ms. Letitia Johnson is going to provide an update to the board on that particular item.
Okay, good afternoon. So if each of you will look at the chart.
Do you want to come over here so I can move and you can use my.
Or if she wants. That one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so if you will each look at the chart that is in your package from the Mississippi Department of Education with your FY 2026 average net enrollment adjustments. So these are adjustments to charter school funding for the FY 27 school year, which begins July 1st, 2026. So I'll discuss a school A and a school B. And I'll give you one of the ones that relates to hold harmless, and if you have questions about the rest of them, I will answer those questions. So around in the spring, our schools present what they want, what their projected enrollment is going to be for the summer, for the spring, and then for the fall. So in the spring, the numbers are provided to the Mississippi Department of Education for the preliminary calculation of Mississippi Student Funding Formula. Those numbers are submitted again by the schools into Epicenter for verification. We take those numbers and provide them to the Mississippi Department of Education. In the fall, the final calculation for MSFF is calculated. The schools submit their projected enrollment in the fall. In the chart you have before you, the first school, I'll say school A. The projected enrollment for school year 26 was 636. The actual enrollment when the numbers are pulled for months 2 and 3, that's October and November. These are the enrollment numbers that are input into MSES by each school. So the numbers came to be reported at 6/31. So there was a difference of 5, meaning that the school was short of meeting their enrollment projections by 5. So an adjustment has to be done to the funding for the upcoming year. The Department of Education does not adjust the funding for the current year because you know you have your budget already in place with your revenues and expenses. So there is an adjustment that will happen to school year 27 funding. So for school A, you see the funding will be adjusted by $31,636. That's before the funding is issued to the school. So it's not like they take the 31,000 divided by 12. So if the school was getting, let's say, $5.8 million, this 31,000 will be subtracted from the $5.8 million. The remainder will be allocated to the school in 12 equal installments. So it happens before they get that. School B, the projected enrollment for 26 was 750. Actual enrollment during months 2 and 3 is 676, which is a difference of 74. Means that FY 27 funding will be decreased by $623,476 dollars before it goes out to the school. So you see the remainder of the schools, all of the schools have an adjustment to enrollment. Those that have the parentheses, those are decreased. So funding will be decreased for the 27 year. You have 2 that funding will be increased in the 27 school year. You also see 2 where there are stars. That means those are whole harmless districts. The funding could not be adjusted because schools cannot go below funding that they receive in school year 24. So if an adjustment had been made to the funding, their funding would have been less than they received in 24. Whole harmless says you have to stay at the level that you were in 24. Now this is school year 27 will be the last year of whole harmless. So July 1st, 2026 to June 30, 2027. June 30, 2027 ends whole harmless. So when the 28 calculation is calculated, whatever is the calculation yields, that's the funding that schools will receive. So if it goes below the 24 level, that's what they will receive. So, and that has been communicated, and if I'm having meetings with them, I inform them as well. So everyone will be on the same page to know that whole harmless dollars will go away. So are there any questions?
Letitia,
Mhm.
can I get you just to give me a scenario of what would happen for that decrease real quick? So if they were getting 400 grand less, but they're only getting 350, what does that look like after the hold harmless is up?
So if they, after the adjustment was made, they're yielding 350. So that 350,000 will be divided by 12. And they
That's
will,
it?
We'll do that. And so one more thing I had on here that I didn't say. So you see the total adjustments for FY 26 funding that will hit 27 is $2.2 million. That's for 20, these are adjustments for 26 that will go into effect for 27. So in FY 25, the adjustments were 1.9 million, but only 1.7 could be adjusted because of whole harmless again. So all of the schools did not receive an adjustment because whole harmless was in place for 25 as well. That was the new first year of the new funding formula. And FY 24, there was an adjustment of $3 million. So the adjustments are happening each year, but they are, seem to be decreasing with the new funding formula. And so we'll just have to see what they look like once whole harmless is out, ceased, no longer available.
Are there any questions?
Any other questions?
What was the 25 number?
The 25 adjustment to 26 funding was 1.7. That's the amount of the adjustment that was made. You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, thank you for your report. Okay, do you have anything else for your report?
Yes, a couple of things. So at this point, item C is your school selected growth indicator results. Dr. McDonald has provided each of you with a document that looks like this. So everybody at the board should, or at the board table should have a copy of this. These are actual results, and he is going to walk you through what this means with respect to the performance framework, what it means with respect to potential outcomes for the schools for this year. So, Dr. McDonald, if you want to do the same thing, please, and everybody will be able to hear you.
You gotta get my steps in.
Everybody.
Steps in.
I got my new iWatch, or my new watch, so I'm able to calculate that.
Thank you, Dr. K.
Mhm.
Board members, as Dr. K mentioned, what you have is a compilation of the growth data that we receive from our schools quarterly. So each quarter, schools are asked to share their most recent student growth data using an assessment tool that they choose, of the school's choosing. This data helps measure how students are improving toward their academic goals for the year. Schools use the results to identify students who may need additional support, who may need some sort of intervention. In addition to that, this data can also be used to predict how students will perform on state assessments. So it's really good data that the schools generate. The final growth data that we'll receive during our fourth quarter window submission window will be used to calculate one of the indicators on the performance framework. So not only is this a tool that can be used to support students throughout the year, but we also use this data to give schools a final rating on one of their indicators of the performance framework. Any questions about the data that we have?
The benchmark assessments that they're using. There's several that are using iReady.
Yes.
In comparison to, just out of curiosity, public schools. How many, do you have any idea of how many are actually using iReady?
So I've indicated on the document each school that uses iReady. So it looks like we have about maybe 4 or 5 of our schools that use iReady as their assessment tool.
Yeah, I think 7. But like in comparison to like regular public schools?
No, we don't have that information. Again, this is a tool that is solely selected by the
By them,
school.
correct.
Yeah, but as it relates to the public schools, we don't have that information.
Are there any other questions?
I just want to reiterate what Dr. McDonald said, that this data is just intermittent data. So this is something that we look at quarterly, and the final submission is what will impact the performance framework. So if some schools test more often than the others, and so their final data that they submit to us for the final quarter of the year will be what is reflected on that performance framework. So this is not that data. This is to provide you with an update of what the data is looking like so far.
No other questions?
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your
All right.
part.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. Yes, I have one more.
Okay.
Okay. If I circle around here to my, Jordan, if you want to go ahead and pull up. Let's see here. Okay. I thought it might be important today to review a couple of things with you all as we move into our action items for the day. So we're going to talk about the renewal application and guidance, and we're also going to discuss the performance framework and potential adjustments to that. So those of you that are on this committee have already seen this, so apologies for repeating those to you, but we have new board members and we have guests who have not seen this slide presentation. And additionally, I've added a couple of slides to it. So we'll start again, as we always do, with the mission of MCSAB, which is to increase access to excellent public schools by authorizing only high-quality charter schools. So again, because we have some new board members and operators that have not yet been through a renewal application cycle, I just want to share a little bit of renewal application history. On September 9th of 2019, our staff received a renewal application and guidance that was developed by Mississippi First. Those were the original documents that we used. The board approved those documents on September 30th of that same year. Then the first renewals began that same month in September for 2 schools that had opened in 2015. Schoolworks, another vendor, had been selected and contracted to conduct the 2-day school quality reviews. And I believe we have one of those schools in the room with us today who was a part of that first renewal session. So shortly thereafter then, in 2020, MCSAB engaged in its very first authorizer evaluation with the National Association of Charter School Authorizers that you all hear us refer to as NACSA. NACSA then focused on 2 of our primary practices back in 2020. Then those were the renewal cycle and then our performance framework. So with both of which were revised during the next couple of years. So then during 2022-23, that renewal cycle, MCSAB used an external reviewer, again, a different external reviewer this time, who reviewed and renewed 3 schools that were in the application or renewal cycle at that point. Then the 2023 peer report noted several challenges in our current renewal policy, and that was reported by the schools, noted by peer in their report. So then, using yet a different vendor, but the same policy and the same practices, the following 2 renewal cycles did not elicit any type of recommendation or report from peer. Then the next renewal cycle will begin this fall. So you can see how over time we've used a variety of different vendors, and we've also used a variety of different renewal applications and guidance. And please stop me, board members, if you have any questions, but feel free to stop me. So the question is, then why change? Well, staff took the recommendations from peer and the comments from our schools very seriously. And nearly 2 years ago, we began to review, to research, and revise the application and the guidance. We reviewed other states and we looked at NACSA's recommendations. We took those into consideration. We looked at our own experiences and our context, and then we drafted and edited the renewal guidance application to do several things. One is to ensure clarity, to ensure alignment to best practices, to increase transparency, to reduce administrative burdens on the schools, to eliminate duplicative information that could be captured somewhere else by staff if that was needed, and then to create predictability. Our goal is to have a simple, predictable, and legally sound policy for our renewals. So what are the guiding questions then for MCSAB? The law states that in making each charter renewal decision, the authorizer must do a few things. One of those things is to ground its decision in evidence of the school's performance over the term of the charter contract in accordance with the framework that is set forth in the contract. It's also to ensure the data is used as available to the school and to the public. So it has to be a public and a transparent process. We have to provide a public report that summarizes the evidence that is the basis for whatever the renewal decision is. So the questions are fairly simple. Is the school academically successful? Is it physically sound? Is it a viable organization that meets the conditions that are found in the organizational framework? And then finally, if it is renewed, what are the future plans going to look like? Are they realistic? Are they reasonable? And are they achievable? So here's what the law says about the terms and conditions. A charter may be renewed. We may renew those, grant renewal with conditions, and we may lessen the term based on the performance capacity and the particular circumstances of each of those schools. So a 5-year term of duration may grant renewal with those conditions and may lessen the renewal term based on the performance. That is statutory. It's 372833(1) of our section of the code. So the next slide, I'll call your attention to the timeline. This timeline is actually it's laid out specifically in the statute. There is a 90-day comprehensive process. It begins with notifying the schools. The schools have to be notified before September 30th. Oftentimes, we don't have the accountability rating. If a school is rated an F in its penultimate year, it's not eligible for renewal, period. So we typically send a notification to the schools to say, you're eligible, pending the final accountability results that come from the State Department of Education. A summary report follows the school. Schools can then respond to that summary report with corrections to factual errors. They then have an opportunity to submit the application. We will provide a completeness check. We'll conduct a site visit or a desk audit. The only times that we've had to do desk audits were during COVID, but we have that built in just in the event that something like that might happen again. We'll review the application, deliver a draft recommendation within that 60-day timeframe, and then the school has an opportunity to respond to that before there's a final vote. And then any school that is not renewed for whatever reason can request a public hearing. So again, just as I said, before September 30, we issue the performance report to the school. It's a comprehensive report on the operations of the school academically, financially, and organizationally over the term of their contract. Okay, the charter renewal application guidance must provide at a minimum an opportunity for the school to do primarily 3 things. And this is what is outlined specifically, again, in the law. It has to provide the school an opportunity to provide additional evidence beyond that data that's in the performance report to support its case for renewal. It has to describe, give the school an opportunity to describe improvements that are undertaken or planned for the school, and then detail their plans for the next charter term. For purposes of a contract renewal, revocation decisions, and other evaluations of the school performance, the authorizer will rely primarily on those standards that are set forth in the performance framework. You see that here under the contract terms 5.1, performance and accountability. So what's new with this process that we're proposing? The process will align the framework rating to the criteria and to the term length. It will ensure that performance over time is the primary source for decision-making. It will eliminate the application as the primary source of evidence. It will reduce subjectivity. It will eliminate vague language. It will eliminate the decision matrix. Oops, I went back too far, excuse me. And then there has been some additional language added by council to clarify some questions that we received in the feedback. So since the original iteration of the renewal application and guidance went out to you all, there have been a couple of changes added by council. So I encourage you to read what's in your agenda and backup material there. So what's new in the process? Again, significant reduction in the number of questions. There is an exception here for schools that have met or exceeded their ratings on the performance framework across all years, and they will only have to complete the narrative, the future plans, and the budget. So there are several questions that they will not have to respond to, which will again reduce administrative burdens for those schools. There are clear specific outcomes based on performance over time with a 5-year renewal full term, no conditions, a 5-year full term with conditions, a 3-year conditional, and a non-renewal. So again, section 5.18 is an additional contract reference that relates directly to the framework. This is a reference back to what are the expectations for schools. Schools are required to meet or exceed all indicators, all sub-indicators, and all overall designations. So the specific terms, form, and requirements of the framework, including any required indicators, measures, metrics, and targets required by applicable state law, federal accountability, are determined by the authorizer and are binding on the governing board of the school. So how will the new framework work? So you see to the left of the slide here, interpreting the ratings. Like I said earlier, we align those ratings conversions to the framework. Within the academic framework, there are 4 scores that a school can receive. They can receive an exceeds in academics, which is a 4, a meets, which is a 3, an approaches, which would be a 2, and a 1, which would be a fails to meet. For financial ratings, there are only 3. You can meet the financial standard, you can approach the financial standard, or you can fail the financial standard. The organizational rating, the same, a meet, an approaches, or a fails. So in this scenario, you're looking at performance over time for this school. The school had in year 1 a 4, which would have been an exceeds in its academics, a 3 for year 2, 3, and 4, which would have been a meets. The financial would have been a meets, an approaches, and an organizational that would have been an approaches, a meets, and a meets. Then you see in table B, the summary of performance. You see those averages. They average down and across. You can see that each one of them come to a meets expectations. The next slide gives you a composite look at the renewal determination. To the left side, you'll see your composite performance score, which was an 8.5. Performance level was a meet or an exceed. Renewal threshold was greater than 8 points. And that recommendation would be to renew this school for a 5-year term based on a couple of other things that we'll get to in another slide. So a decimal point of 0.5 or greater in the composite score would round up to the next whole number. So you can see where we were at 8.5 on the previous slide. This would roll up to a 9, and the school would receive a 5-year renewal if there were no outstanding corrective action plans or any sort of improvement plans or any of those things, interventions with the school from us or from the State Department of Education. This is the slide I was referring to. So you see there, you've got the application of the criteria. If the school does get greater than 8 points and they are in good standing with the authorizer, they're not under any type of MDE imposed school improvement or corrective action plan, they would get a 5-year no condition renewal. A school that earns a greater than 8 points but has an unresolved notice of concern, an unresolved notice of breach, they're under an MDE imposed improvement or corrective action plan, they would get a conditional renewal based on those things. And you can see as the chart goes down all the way, 7 to 8 points is a 3-year conditional, less than 7, non-renewal. And if you have these statutory issues, the points are not applicable and you are recommended for non-renewal. So you can see any statutory ground for revocation or non-renewal under the section of 372833 or if the school has failed to meet their financial rating for 3 consecutive years overall, or the school has received an overall approaches in their academic rating for 4 consecutive years. Okay. The feedback, I won't click on it here, but the feedback is included in the agenda online. So anybody that's in the audience that needed to click on that feedback, you can see that feedback presented, the responses from the authorizer and the feedback. I can clarify though, some things that were in the feedback that we received. All renewal decisions are going to be based on the law. They're going to be based on the board approved policy. Schools will have meaningful opportunity to respond to the comprehensive report and to the initial draft recommendation. I can clarify that compliance with the Mississippi Department of Education, their applicable charter rules, our applicable charter rules, policies, federal law, state law, and the organizational framework, those are all included in the criteria for renewal. I'll clarify that the scoring chart is binding, that the most recent updated guidance includes how the points are calculated and when ranked appropriate. I'll clarify for you the 90 days is statutory language. January 31 has been and remains the deadline for that based on the notification of a before September 30 date. Clarify for you there are no borderline cases as metrics are clear and aligned to the framework. There is a revised version and it allows for graphs in their application process or in the application itself. The law directs the authorizer then to include an opportunity to present evidence beyond data presented in the report, and that is included in each and every one of those questions in the application. Every school is provided an opportunity to provide additional information. Schools that have resolved corrective action plans, notices of concern, any notice of breach will not be penalized for any historical issues. If they have been resolved and closed out, they will not be counted toward any of the current recommendations for, or the recommendation for their renewal. And that just simply means that we won't punish them for anything that happened in the past that's been resolved. And then if a school indicates that it's not applicable in a response, an NA will not have any type of adverse effect. So I'll pause there for questions from the board, and then I'll pivot to the framework. Some of you have seen it, so some of you are familiar already.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. With when you, I think it was this slide. Can you go back to that slide for me? I think it was it. Because it looks like it's the same value system, and I'm curious as to why the financial and organizational there is an opportunity, I guess, to do exceed. In a
Because
way
it's
that
not
you
in the
can.
performance framework.
Okay.
But good question. Others?
This is Jay. Are we having feedback from the charter schools itself? And the ecosystem?
Yes, sir.
You.
Yes, sir. We do have feedback that is in your backup material that's on the agenda. So if you click on that feedback, that is the initial feedback that we received from them. There has been some feedback since that time that's also included. And then you see our references to the statute or the rationale for the recommended change also as it aligns to NACSA best practices.
Okay.
Did we receive any feedback from NACSA on this?
No, we didn't send it to NACSA. I'll show you another slide going forward that'll be helpful for your response or question.
Any other questions?
Because we're going to go right into the framework. We did get feedback from BASIS. You know, they wrote our framework. And so we did get feedback from them. I might, if I could just take a point of privilege here and introduce a guest. Is that okay? Sarah Wave is here from BASIS. Sarah will be joining us for our day tomorrow. And she and Anna was supposed to be here. She had troubles with a flight. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
glad to be here.
Right, and so they did have an opportunity to review this in detail. They do our annual report for us. They wrote the performance framework, and then they had an opportunity to do the review of the renewal application. So I don't know, Sarah, if you have anything you want to add to or comment on at this point, or
No, just happy to be here and happy to see you guys all in person and
Yeah.
excited for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So.
us too. So glad to have you. Thank you for being here. Okay, so, and then I'll click on a couple of other resources, Marcy, that might be helpful if you want to dive into those. Okay, so pivoting then to the performance framework. So you see here, the performance framework actually sets forth the academic and operational performance, all of the indicators, the measures, the metrics that guide the authorizer's annual evaluations of the charter school. The performance framework, based on the statute, includes indicators, measures, and metrics that at a minimum require us to look at student academic proficiency, student academic growth, at attendance, recurrent year enrollment, in and out of school suspension and expulsion. It requires us to look at high school post-secondary readiness, financial performance and sustainability, and board performance and stewardship, including compliance to federal, state law and contractual obligations. So in 2023, the National Charter School Institute, those of you that were here will recall, they too did an evaluation of our academic framework and how it aligns to NACSA standards. Their comments are here on the slide for you, but in essence, MCSAB's academic framework is based on state indicators and meet the legal requirements for public charter schools, which include being held accountable to state testing and graduation requirements. The framework also includes measures that align with multiple measures concepts that are a part of the NACSA principles and standards. The operational, academic, and financial framework aligns with that best practices. So it also respects the autonomy of the schools and does not suggest that schools, adopt a certain curriculum or operate in a specific manner. The report and the principles and standards are linked in here. So once this is posted and it's fun, it may be already. It's already posted. Great. So for those of you that didn't have access to this already, you'll have access to it now. And you can click on those links and it'll take you straight to the principles and standards and so forth. So
It's a news item on our website.
thank you. News item on the website for those of you that couldn't. All right, so the framework allows for schools to propose additional indicators to augment external evaluations of the performance. That's what we were talking about earlier when Dr. McDonald was talking about annual benchmark indicators or school selected indicators. That is where the schools tell us this is our annual target, performance targets for these particular math, ELA, grade level, subject area goals. And so you can see that is also statutory under 372829-2. And they schools are required to report a number of items to the State Department of Education annually. They have to submit student enrollment, their average daily attendance. They have to submit participation in the National School Lunch Program, their special ed, vocational ed, gifted ed, alternative school programs, and federal programs. Part of that is related to the old student funding formula. So that language is a little outdated. It's average net enrollment now as opposed to average daily attendance. But in general, you can see what the frequency of performance goal setting is as it's required to the authorizer, and then what is reported to the State Board of Education. And then Marcy, here is your your resources that you were asking about. Jordan, can you click in the guide to the, thank you. Yeah. So this is NACSA's resource. And for those of you that don't know, NACSA is the National Association of Charter School Authorizers. It is the only association for charter authorizers in particular. The Institute does charter work, BASIS does charter work, other vendors do charter work, but it is the gold standard for charter authorizers around the nation to use and follow their best practices as they engage with charter schools and authorizers and advocates around the nation. So you can see very clearly here the information that we would look at and then ensure that we were in compliance with, in alignment with respect to the framework. Jordan, you can keep scrolling. Just go on down to one of the framework indicators there. Oh, can you go back up for just a second? I want to point out this one thing. So, great, you'll see right here, I don't know what page this is, maybe page 8, where it says great authorizers, those with strong community-focused school portfolios and performance outcomes, they're going to look at these things. They're going to look at leadership. Great authorizers are dedicated to a mission of giving more children access to better schools, the necessities of a consistent framework, and taking action based on those results. We also need to have a commitment to quality authorizing. Authorizing has to be visible. It has to be transparent. It has to be adequately resourced. And then great authorizers make decisions based on what drives student outcomes, not based on checking boxes or personal beliefs. That is the use of professional judgment, which is mentioned, I think, 19 times in this document alone. And then you can see there's also information on compliance versus quality. That comes up a lot. Questions about what a quality measure is and what a compliance measure is. How to use professional judgment, how to analyze the information. These are the resources that we go to when we are using and utilizing the data that's input into our framework to make sure that we are in compliance, or not in compliance with, but in alignment with, I think is a better way to say that. So it's a great resource, Marcy, and renewal is also in one of these. I don't think it's in this one, but in one of the other ones. But it's a great resource, not just for us, but also for the schools. I would encourage governing boards of the local schools to also be very familiar with this document as well as the others, because it does give a lot of good information. Jordan, the crosswalk that you did, is that in the supplemental guidance or is that the guidance? Can you click on that one?
Is it on your slide?
The last slide, yeah. Yep.
It's also possible that that's.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so this is the other piece of guidance that we would go to that is incredibly important whenever you are looking at a CMO or an ESP provider and the financial assessment. Much of what I think we have proposed in the CMO and in the ESP comes from here, as well as NACSA and their principles and standards. So I'm hopeful that that provides everybody with a really good overview of why we need to make some changes and the changes that we're proposing for both the renewal application and guidance, as well as the performance framework. So, and that ends my lengthy report for today.
When they said the professional judgment, was that a NACSA recommendation, or did they provide any like feedback or advice when it comes to?
They did. Yes. I think, let me see. And I'm not sure if we have this in your, yeah, there are 16 mentions of professional judgment and the use of it in the guide to the performance frameworks. So very, very clear on what to do and how to do it.
Okay. Can you send that out?
I think you all have a copy of that already, but if you don't, we can send
No,
it.
if you say it's in a copy, I can just go.
If you don't see it, happy to send it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Good questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, so next we'll move on to the financial report. So Mrs. DeRosette?
Okay, I'm going to try to be briefer than Dr. Comatario was. I'm just kidding. Sorry. So this, what'd you say? This report covers the time from from April 10th to May 27th. The cutoff date of May 27th was used. We usually try to cut off closer to your board meeting, but because of considerations of timing, we decided to go ahead and get the material to y'all as fast as we could. And so that's why we cut it off a little earlier. During this time frame, we spent $130,805 in the operational budget. The majority of that expenses were in salaries, and then the majority of the other operational expenses were for routine items such as postage, online software subscriptions, and IT support. The only other routine item was for a court reporter for your hearing. I mentioned in the last meeting that we had that there would be an amendment needed for legal services. And so there was the formal action for that is actually going to be taken in your new action items shortly. But the budget that I show you did reflect it since it was mentioned in the last report that we were going to increase the legal contract. The school budget support, we spent almost $35,000 during this period, and most of that included application renewal, a board member event conducted by CSBM, and then the basis is first deliverable for the strategic planning. We've made notations on your budget to show that we had some contracts that came in under what had been originally done, and so we added that money back into your generic bucket and said that was your to be determined since we didn't need it. And then we were able to use that money that we had put back in that to be determined to make a change in a contract. We had a multi-year contract that we weren't sure how much would be in 26 or how much would be in 27. And we ended up needing that money in 26 because of the board retreat tomorrow. And so we moved some of that money back out of that bucket into the basis contract. And so I think everything is pretty clear on that FY26. Where I want to spend most of our time is on our FY27 budget. FY27 starts in 2 weeks. It's hard to believe. And so we had proposed a budget based on what the legislature appropriated for you. And I do want to remind the members that this budget can be moved throughout the year, modified. We're not stuck by the legislature to how much could be in each category. The spreadsheet for 27 for salaries, it appears that the salary line item is higher than it was in FY26. However, we made an adjustment, a budget modification in the salary line item in the last 2 months. And so we're really actually coming in under budget in our salary line item. The $512,000 in the salary line item, it reflects action that was taken during the last executive session. And also includes the action item that's pending at the State Personnel Board on their Thursday meeting. The fringe benefits, I do want to point out, will increase in FY27. Those were legislatively done. There's a 0.5% increase on retirement that has to be paid by the agency. And then the health insurance, the agency share, will increase for the last 7 months of FY27. So that has been built in. In the travel budget last year, we had put in that we would have a certain amount, and we decided that based on current expenditures and projected travel, that we could actually reduce the travel by $5,000 in the upcoming year. The operational contractual budget, it's much easier to project that budget because those are known expenses. And so we've altered those slightly for 27 than what we had in 26. But overall, the contractual budget will be $20,000 less in FY27 than it was in FY26. And that's primarily due to the fact that the branding that happened and that website increases that happened in 26 will not be moved forward into 27. The contractual budget for school support, for those of you on the board previously, we made a change last year in how we budget the school support. We used to say, here's what we expect it to be in every line item, but we really don't know what we're going to need for, applications and things like that. So what we've decided to do a year ago was just to have a lump sum that said school support, and anytime the board actually enters into a contractual arrangement, then we move it out of that bucket that's for school support and put it into a line item and put the vendor down and then the dollar amount. And so this year for 27, we're proposing that we have $285,986 in that bucket for school support. There's two items that we already know that will be there for 27, and that's the Epicenter contract, and that's already budgeted at 12,000. So that's not in the generic budget. And then, as I mentioned, the basis contract was a multi-year contract. So what we're not spending in 26, it's already budgeted for 27, and that amount is $14,000. So overall, the school budget is almost identical in dollar amount as it was in 26 to 27. The commodity budget in the first part of 26, we just had a commodity line item, and then we decided it would be nice to know how much we spent for school support, but we never did track that, even though we put it in there, because by the time we decided to do that, the expenses had already occurred. So this year for 27, we are recommending that we keep that budget separated, and we think that we can budget 25,000 total, where last year we budgeted 30 in the supply budget. And then we also think that the equipment budget can go down from 15,000 to 7,500. So overall, the FY27 budget that I'm submitting to you for approval today is for the full amount of the appropriation, which is $1,403,231. And then I'm recommending that you start adopting the financial report as presented as part of your board action, and also then go ahead and approve the budget for 27. And then I just want to mention for your next meeting for in July, we're hoping that we'll have all of the FY26 expenses 100% done. We are allowed to spend FY26 budget items through the mid-August, but we're hoping by end of July, we'll know exactly where you ended the year. We will also present an updated 27 budget because of actions you're taking this afternoon for contracts that you'll be entering into. And your FY28 budget is due to the legislature August 3rd. And so we'll present that in the July meeting for final approval. Do y'all have any questions?
Any questions? Okay, all right, thank you for that report.
Can I clarify two things I think I heard you say?
Sure.
One, that from now on, we would need to have the board approve the quarterly report, or that budget, the monthly report.
I just think it's a good idea for the board to say that they have heard the report and they adopt the report. A lot of adopt the report as presented.
Okay, that's fair. And then the other one, to adopt the budget, we need to go ahead and adopt the budget for 27.
Yes, because you won't meet again until July 27th, and we will have already had salary expense and everything before you meet again.
Okay, we need to figure out,
Then
yeah, we need to amend that.
I move that we amend the agenda to add an action item. Is it N or O?
Oh,
A lot of action items.
To adopt or consider adoption of the fiscal year 27 budget.
yes. Thank you.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Trustee Scott.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries.
Do you need a motion to adopt the new amended agenda?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second it, Carol Gary.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now we will move on to our committee reports. So Erin, would you like to make a report on behalf of the application committee meeting?
Sure. We did not have a meeting since April, but we did receive the feedback from our external evaluators on, I believe, charter. It is located in new business. We will need to act on it, and the full report from them is in there. Just real briefly, all members of the application committee, we were provided the external team's narratives and their finding. We did not convene to discuss it further, specifically because we allocated these the resources for this committee to review the proposals to determine whether the applicants meet the minimum criteria to move on to the next stage. They did this. And like I said, their report is in an action item. I think it's in. Their findings were that I believe charter failed to meet the minimum criteria and noted significant concerns in their determination. And just real briefly, I just want to explain that in the categories, there were overwhelming number of categories where they did not even meet the standard. Curriculum and instruction design, pupil performance standards, school culture, supplemental programming, special populations and at-risk students, student recruitment and enrollment, organization charts, staff structure, staff planning, hiring, management, and evaluation, professional development, performance management, facilities, startup and ongoing operations, operations capacity, financial plan, and financial management capacity. Those were all where they found that they did not meet the standard. And then there were 3 where they found falls far below the standard. And those were educational program capacity, governing board, advisory bodies. So overwhelming concerns. We'll need to vote on that, but their recommendation is to not approve it, to move on to the next stage.
Do you want to give an update on the renewal meeting as well? Do you want to update the committee meeting on that one? You can just briefly.
The one from April?
Yeah, because it was just in general, since it was quite a while ago, it was in April.
Yeah, I didn't even.
I gotta refresh my memory on that one. We did have a meeting back in April. Candace and I were the 2 members present.
That's when you guys saw this same
Yes,
presentation.
we went over the renewal application and guidance. We had also provided feedback of our own to reach where the document is now. And we discussed next steps. Of course, that was to provide, to also give an opportunity for feedback from stakeholders before we brought it to the full board. Depending on what the full board votes on today, it then goes out for APA. So even though we might have received comments from some of the charters, they get another opportunity as well as the rest of the public if it goes out for APA. It'll go out for APA for a minimum of 25 days for the comment period before it comes back to us for consideration based on those comments. And that was all that was discussed in April, I believe.
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any questions? Okay, we will move on to,
We want to ask Ben if he has an update on the performance framework, they decided not to meet. I don't know if he has a
right, yes.
update or not.
Hey, Ben, do you have an update on the performance committee?
A long time ago. Okay, thank you.
No update. Okay, thank you. Okay, we will move on to public comments. So thank you all for being here today. We appreciate your time. We do have a lot of you. If you could please keep it under 5 minutes, we would appreciate it. So first, we have Mr. John Dixon, Executive Director for Charter School Association.
Good afternoon. To Board Chair Hunt, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am Dr. John Dixon, and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of the Mississippi Charter Schools Association. And I'm here today to comment on the proposed revisions to the performance framework, as well as the renewal application guidance. I want to begin by acknowledging the significant work that has gone into developing these documents. I also want to be clear that my comments today are not to oppose the improvements, refinement, or the strengthening of the performance framework and renewal application. Our schools support rigorous accountability and share the board's commitment to ensuring strong outcomes for students. My concern today is about process. Over the past few months, stakeholders have been presented with proposed changes to both the renewal application guidance and the performance framework under timelines that made meaningful engagement difficult. On April 7th, proposed updates to the renewal application guidance were shared with stakeholders. Schools were given 5 business days to review the changes and provide feedback. During that process, I personally reached out to the authorizer staff to request additional time and offered MCSA's assistance in helping school leaders review the materials and provide thoughtful input. Many school leaders did provide feedback. However, during the subsequent applications committee meeting, it was shared by committee members that not all stakeholder feedback had been reviewed prior to the committee's consideration of the document. The guidance was then advanced without leaders having a clear understanding of how their input had been evaluated or incorporated. We also learned just today that after the authorizer had met with council, there have been more changes to the document which we were not aware of. A similar situation occurred with the performance framework revisions that were provided. The proposed changes were shared on May 18th during one of the busiest times for school leaders. School leaders were simultaneously working to manage end-of-year assessments, promotion activities, staff transitions, student celebrations, and other closeout responsibilities. Stakeholders were given then approximately 9 business days to review and respond. Many leaders were surprised that the additional framework revisions were being considered, particularly given that the framework had previously undergone a much more extensive round of feedback by stakeholders. As a result, there is significant uncertainty regarding whether the feedback provided by schools was fully considered and whether any modifications were made as a result of this feedback. I believe the issue before the board today is not simply whether the proposed changes are reasonable. The question is whether the board has sufficient confidence that the stakeholder engagement process was robust enough to ensure adoption at this time. Trust in an accountability system depends not only on the quality of the framework, but also on the transparency and inclusiveness of the process used to develop it. On May 11th, I shared a memo with the board and the authorizer staff summarizing concerns by school leaders regarding transparency, predictability, and the application of professional judgment within the renewal process. Those concerns reflect the feedback gathered from leaders across the state and were offered in the spirit of strengthening the system and building confidence in its implementation. To date, schools have not had an opportunity to fully discuss those concerns, nor is it clear how stakeholder feedback on either the renewal application guidance or performance framework has informed the final recommendations before the board today. So for that reason, I respectfully ask the board to consider delay final approval of these changes and instead allow additional time for stakeholders to provide feedback, review, and discuss. Doing so would not weaken accountability. In fact, it would strengthen confidence in the final product and ensure that any changes adopted by this board reflects the benefit of multiple perspectives, including those responsible for implementing these requirements on behalf of students and families. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your continued service to Mississippi's charter school community.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. right, next we have Mrs. Garrett, a parent from SR1. Is she here? No? Okay. Next, Mrs. Truss, a parent from SR1. Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this board. I have some information. Can I share with you, with the board, that I'd like to speak from? And again, thanks for the opportunity. I stand before you today not as an expert in any of the information I just heard. I stand before you today as a parent, as a guardian of a student of SR1. I wanted to come today to put a face with the extension of what's going on at the school as it relates to the students. I'm also standing here almost in tears because of the thought of why we're having to be here today. I have a kindergartner. He just was promoted to first grade. The first school beside daycare that my grandson has ever attended was SR1. He's been there for 2 years. He has excelled on many levels academically at SR1. As parents, we don't know about the finances and the monies that the school has. But we've recently been made aware of the challenges of the school, and being made aware of those challenges, we have rallied behind that school, SR1, in our community because we know the difference that it has made. I have 2 adult daughters. Both are products of the Canton Public School system. And as we know that all children are special needs, whether they're labeled or not, because we all have things, learning styles and ways that we learn best. So that in itself is a special need. I have one daughter who graduated with honors from the Canton Public School system, who's also my grandson's mother. And I have another daughter who did not graduate with honors. She was a below average student, more or less. I was a very involved parent as my children went through school. I'm a part of the PTA, a part of other different organizations, a band mom and softball mom. I was all of those things. So it wasn't that there wasn't parent participation. I was there. I would make myself available to the faculty and staff. If there was ever an issue with my children, I asked for them to speak with me about it so we can correct those things. So in saying that I have a below average student, I found out later, and as my daughter was an adult, she was like maybe 22 years old, that she had an issue with reading. My point in saying that is, in public school, sometimes there are needs that should be met early on that aren't always looked at because the students aren't met at their need. But at SR1, it appears that the students are being met in their need. Because my grandson being born just before the pandemic, he had some issues, not necessarily learning delays, because he was able to count to 100, and he can even tell you what a trillion and a billion is now in kindergarten. He can read exceptionally well. When we went to meet with his teacher at the beginning of last school year, he was in their affirmation corner and he was able to read. And Ms. Linus was surprised that he was able to not just see the words, and know what the words were, but to even know what those words meant. And I say that I believe that because of the learning that he's receiving, not just at home, but also in the school, it attributes to him being able to understand and to be able to succeed in his learning. So as a number, I'm looking at these. We went to a meeting recently, and we were given these 2 sheets that I gave to you all. And I look at these numbers, and my question is, so where is the problem? I don't know really where the problem is and why SR1 will be facing revocation. I guess my purpose today is to ask, having these numbers before me, and again, I'm no expert, but having these numbers before me, and to understand that SR1 may be facing revocation. Their charter may be facing revocation. I'm concerned. But I also wanted you all to see the face of the student as an extension of the student. And to hear my heart. I mean, I understand that this is business. I understand that you all have, decisions that you have to make that's best for whoever is involved. But understand that there are students who are affected. If the charter is revoked, if their charter is revoked, then that places the students in an undeserving community being placed into an already overcrowded community, public school system, where they may not receive the attention that they need to be successful. We're in a school system, children are being taught to be successful beyond 12th grade. They're expected to go on to college and be college ready. And I believe at SR1, they're able to do that. They're able to, and again, I have a first grader. He's going into first grade. So he has a long way to go. But I can only imagine, should SR1, gain their accreditation to move on to 12th grade or to have K through 12, I can only imagine what my student would be. But we won't know if SR1 charter is revoked. So I ask as a parent, as a concerned citizen for our community who could surely gain much from SR1 being in our community, that you all consider. I don't know what there is to consider, but reconsider the revocation of their charter if there is anything to consider as it relates to that. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Right, next, we have Miss Amanda Johnson, Executive Director for Clarksdale Collegiate.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for allowing me just a few minutes to speak before you. I do have preparing remarks around the renewal guidance and the performance framework, but there are just two things that I wanted to address before I got started. One, I do think it's really important to have context for some of the information that you have received. And so when you guys receive the adjusted funding for the schools with enrollment. So our schools and our leaders know, and our financial team knows that funding is based on enrollment as of month 2 and 3. And so I don't want you to be alarmed by the number that you saw by Clarksdale Collegiate. State enrollment in public schools across the country, including Mississippi, including the Delta, is down. And so you will receive, we have made adjustments to our budget well before we received that notification, knowing that we would be, our funding would be different based on enrollment, and you will receive an updated enrollment chart for us that we'll request for our contract based on the trends that we're noticing within our community and within the state. So I just want to put that in context. The other thing is I can't stand before you without just giving a little bit of news from the school. So I will be brief, but just sharing 3 kind of positive notes from the school. This year we opened up our high school, so we finished our 9th grade year. So next year we'll have 10th graders. So we are still enjoying and loving developing the class of 2029 as they grow older. Just some really exciting things coming for our high school scholars. Also, our independent enrichment is something that we spent a little bit of time this year. Our independent enrichment includes academic opportunities outside of the school, which a lot of times scholars have to pursue on their own, like science fair, spelling bee, mock trial, things like that. And so this year we had so many scholars participate. We had 55 regional winners, whether it be the spelling bee, science fair, any of those things. And we had 4 state level winners. We had a most effective attorney at the mock trial tournament here in Jackson, and then 3 who placed at the state science fair for middle school and high school. So really excited about some of the accomplishments that our scholars are receiving leaving outside of some of the normal things you see, like tested areas. But speaking of tested areas, the only test results that we have so far are from our third grade scholars. So if you saw MDE put out a report on third grade initial passing rate for third grade, we went up 1 percentage point, which we were expecting a slight increase from last year with literacy already being strong in literacy in that area. But we had 70% of our scholars pass the initial assessment compared to 48.4%. So we were 21% higher than the district that we are compared to. So just want to share out some great news. If you haven't looked at it, please do. Lots of great results from a lot of the charter schools. So just want to share those things. So going to the renewal guidance and performance framework, essentially my ask is going to be that you not send it to APA yet. I understand that APA is a process where you can give feedback. But my hope would be that what is presented to APA and goes in is ready to go and is something that that the board feels good about and that your contractual partners feel good about. When I saw the renewal framework, the guidance, I literally called my board member and said, I am concerned. I don't think we would be renewed if this were our guidance right now. And I'm still to this day concerned that we would not get renewed if this was our guidance right now. And to think the amount of work that we're doing, particularly in literacy, some of the things that I showed you would not be available to kids and families in Clarksdale and the surrounding areas, to me is not something that I clearly want, or I hope it's not something that the board wants. And so I still have questions, understanding about how the renewal process and guidance would work. And so we did receive written feedback that you guys received. It basically said your comments have been taken under advisement in this chapter. I have not seen where those comments have been taken in, and maybe with a question and answer session where we could go through it, that would be a helpful process for us to truly understand it and be feel good about it and be prepared to submit for renewal when that time comes. My main feedback that I'll share was that the renewal process, for it to be clear, objective, and transparent, as peer report in 2023 said that the renewal process should be. In order to do that, the things that you're basing it on need to be clear, transparent, and objective. And so I still stand by the fact that the performance framework and how it's been implemented has not yet been addressed in order for the renewal process to be clear, transparent, and objective. And so that would be my main ask for you guys. When we did the performance framework review last time, we had an entire year where there was feedback back and forth. And I'm not sure if Sarah was a part of it, but BASIS ran that process. We had a trial run in the 21-22 school year so we could see what it would look like using that new performance framework. That could be an opportunity here where we do a trial run and see where schools would land, then take that feedback from stakeholders in order to make sure that the process and the framework is strong, is good, and is ready for everybody and is fair for the schools and the families who are impacted by it. So my ask is that you not approve the renewal guidance and the performance framework guidance until a process that includes thorough vetting of both. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, next is Dr. Tamala Boyd-Shaw, Executive Director for LaFleur Legacy.
Good afternoon. Thank you all so much. Before I get into my comments, which basically focus as well on the performance framework and the renewal guidance, I understand from an email received by Dr. Kamacharya a couple of hours before this meeting that our letters from MDE would be added to this agenda for possible executive session. That came as a surprise to me, again, coming a couple of hours before this meeting. Yes, I want to be transparent as always. We do have 2 letters that we've received from MDE. One was relative to our December 1 SPED count, which we certified 0 when we should have certified with 26. I found out about that letter by happenstance, being at a conference with SPED and being in a meeting where someone shared that, and then later found that the charter authorizer staff had knowledge of that letter that had not been shared with me until I reached out to share that information. So I ask that however you all discuss that, that context is taken into consideration. And the other letter that Dr. Kamacharya wishes to bring before, and again, all total transparency, as these things should be shared with the board or with the authorizer staff as required by our contract, was about ELP testing, which is testing of our EL scholars, which again, we take total accountability for. However, those two letters, board members, have resulted in technical assistance from MDE after a failed meeting with Dr. Kamachari and Dr. Julia Roberts, which again took me by surprise. Dr. Alan Burrow met with my team and me, and that has resulted in technical assistance, which is what should happen when you receive any notice from MDE. So we are in the process of doing corrective action plans. We are in process of technical assistance. So I'm not sure what the possible executive session discussion will be, but I wanted to be transparent about that, again, since I found out about that a couple of hours before this meeting. Now, again, as you heard, I'm Dr. Tamala Boyd-Shaw, and I understand that this is an opportunity to speak, and I appreciate that opportunity to speak. I'm being thrown off by all the notes being passed, though, so let me get myself grounded with that. So I submitted written feedback regarding the proposed framework and the renewal revisions, but basically the performance framework. So I won't go into so many details about that. Instead, board members, I simply just want to speak to you from the perspective of a school leader who works in this work every day, and just talk to you about the realities that lie behind the work that we do, behind the reports, behind the ratings, behind the compliance submissions, and behind even the board packets that you all receive prior to your meetings. As I reviewed the proposed changes to both the renewal and the performance framework, I found myself asking a simple question that I ask you to think about as well. How well do our board members really know the schools that you oversee? And how can we, as school leaders, help you to know the schools that you oversee? Do you know the schools behind the reports, behind the notices, behind the corrective actions, behind what is summarized even in a recommendation memo? Do you know the children whose lives are being changed every day, and even what it looks like to step foot in our buildings? If the answer is no, or even not really, I invite you to please make time to visit our schools, talk to our staff, talk to our scholars, and talk to our stakeholders. At Legacy, every eighth grader is required to take the ACT. And that's not because they have to, but it's because we believe our scholars deserve early exposure to college and college readiness and the high expectations that we share with them. Each year, we have scholars who score 18 or higher as an eighth grader because we intentionally invest in preparation and opportunity. Our students have won state student council offices, leadership positions, and academic recommendations, and they are learning to advocate for themselves and others. They have visited colleges across Mississippi and beyond because we put in place opportunities for them to see the possibilities that are much larger than the circumstances in their environment. They have even explored historic sites connected to their learning and launched a scholar media team that allows them to share their own stories. And board members, those accomplishments don't always show up in framework scores, but they matter. They matter to the children, they matter to the family, and they certainly matter to us as school leaders who are working hard every day. At the end of this school year, and you heard mention about the school selected optional, which we were encouraged to change what the rating is, we obliged and did so. We had more than 95% of our families reporting being mostly or completely satisfied with their decision to choose Legacy. And that's not a compliance metric. I see that as trust in what we are doing. Speaking of trust, businesses like Trustmark Bank have invested in our mission because they believe in the work that was being done for our scholars in the Mississippi Delta. They've grown from a major financial investment to sponsorship of our Scholar Dollars program. That's showing confidence in the work that we do. So board members, as I end, I just want you all to know that I worry that we are moving toward a system where the conversation becomes increasingly centered on compliance and increasingly disconnected from impact. I worry when discretion expands without clear guardrails that accountability then becomes more punitive than developmental. And I wonder how it makes our schools being judged primarily by deficiencies rather than by the totality of our performance and contribution to children. So as you consider these proposed changes and continue your oversight abilities, I respectfully ask that you give yourselves time before voting to know the schools beyond the paperwork. I also ask that during that time, you schedule time to speak to us, school leaders, schedule time to survey us, schedule time especially to visit our schools and know the work that we are doing. Because ultimately, charter schools are not simply spreadsheets and paperwork. They are not just notices or framework ratings. They are the children and the family that make up our schools, and every decision that you make in this room should begin and end with them in mind. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to our first new business item. The first one is to consider the approval to file the renewal application and guidance as proposed in accordance with APA. Everybody's had a chance to look over this. I'll entertain a motion to approve this filing.
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second?
A second, Carol Gary.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. So the concerns that were just mentioned by Dixon, Johnson, and Shaw, was it in relation to A, B, and C? These from what we're talking about now?
Sounded like A and B.
A and B, yeah. So I'm curious of what the board thinks about the comments that was made. And I've talked to some other stakeholders who also had the same concerns about just the timeline and that considering tabling it until we meet again, because there's still time.
So to confirm the dates on this would have to go out by September 30, correct? For renewal stuff?
From an APA perspective, sorry if I'm stepping on your toes. When it goes out for APA the first time, it has to be out for comment for 25 days, and then it'll come back to us. Well, it'll come back to the staff to review it, to incorporate any changes. If they are not clarification or editorial and they're actually substantive changes, it would actually come back to the charter board for us to consider again, and then it'd have to go out for APA comment again another 25 days until something is brought to us that there's no more changes and we're confident, and then we approve it for final, and that's another 30 days before it's a final.
So 25 plus 30 at the minimum is at 55.
That's the minimum.
Minimum.
I'm sorry, I should have been more clear. We need to have this ready to go by what date? What date would this be for the framework and stuff to be released for?
I mean, the only other consideration is if you end up delaying this and you need it for the next renewal period, it'd have to come back as a immediate rule. And it still goes out for APA then as well, but then it's immediately implemented as well.
So you buck the process in that this is given the 25 comment period as well as the 30 days till effectiveness. You do the immediate rule, it's y'all approve it and then it is in place immediately instead of what we're doing now.
For what it's worth, for other agency considerations outside of this, the purpose of the public comment period is for them to
Have their input.
provide
That's
further.
my input. This is an additional step that this board provides, that this staff provides for the stakeholders to get their input before it even comes before the consideration of the board.
So if we don't move forward with this now, the stakeholders and staff can work together to come up with any additional revisions, and then it would come back to us to send it to APA, is that right?
That's correct. Or you can move forward and with the public comment period, get the same feedback, and then you've already knocked out the 25 days in the event we need to get it in place by September 30.
What's the rush to go ahead and get it in place by September 30? I'm not saying there is, but is there a rush to get it in place now rather than just let the stakeholders work through some of these things with staff?
So the two schools that are up for renewal this year know which framework and which renewal guidance they're operating under.
But if we don't approve it between now and then, you are prepared to under the existing framework, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Do I have a motion?
Mine's not a question, but I would say Candace posed the question. My thoughts are not approve these and let the stakeholders work through whatever issues they want with the staff before we rush into something.
Okay, so no, that's what I said.
Any more discussion?
All right, any more discussion?
This is Jay, I agree with that, for things like they are working on. I think we need to work with the stakeholders, work through it.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I just will say there were a lot of comments that I read through and that were provided. And I want to be sure that the schools know where they stand on this. And so I don't know if the right thing to do would be to approve this with the ask that the staff sit down with the school leaders while this is in the APA process, and do some Q&A and some feedback so that so that the school leaders are comfortable with where we are. I was on the board for the last cycle when we had the 1-year trial run. And so it does give me pause that I feel like we're pushing this a little faster. I wish that we could allow these school leaders to have a little, I know that they had time to review, and I know that I'm very familiar with the APA process, having had to write those myself. And it's very public how I feel about those. But I'm familiar with the process, and I just want to be sure, however, that the school leaders' concerns and certainly Dr. Dixon's concerns are addressed prior to us implementing this new guidance.
For clarification, the 1 year was the performance framework. It wasn't about the renewal application.
That's correct. Thank you. I was going to say that the 1-year trial run was for the performance framework. We had worked with Basis Policy Research on that. And so that was for the other adjustments that have been made to the renewal have been through the APA process over time. They've been simple adjustments. This one is more significant, but it is in response to peer. It's in response to the feedback that we got from schools. I'm not sure if you were on the board. I don't remember when there were a couple of schools that were in the renewal process and they had significant concerns about the matrix. And there were a lot of and, ors, ifs, buts in that matrix. And so it wasn't clear. And so one of the things that we've heard multiple times is predictability. And so by ensuring that these numbers align to the framework, there is no question in it. The comments that we got were primarily around clarity and around removing the language in the criteria. So there were several comments from the schools about we don't want those things tied to corrective action plans and school improvement plans and the things like that either MDE or the board imposes on the school for a variety of different reasons. There were several comments about clarity and about adding in some things, in particular from one one group of schools, and we addressed every one of those, and those are noted. We made adjustments to them and included them in the new iteration. So a majority of, and then the other pieces I iterated today, the clarification around the questions that they had. As far as the timing, to just piggyback on what Dylan said, this is an additional above and beyond what other agencies do, and just to give them the opportunity to provide feedback. I did respond to Dr. Dixon when he texted me and asked me about could they have additional time, and I said we needed the responses by that certain date so that it could go into the board agenda. We needed time to compile all of that feedback and then make sure that we had our responses included. I then responded to him in an email and suggested that maybe because we had 12 leaders, they could split apart some of those areas on the framework, which have now been limited to 3 anyway. The other areas are not in there. And then also, I think there were only 9 of those to begin with, 9 to 3. And then I think we addressed, I'd have to go back and be sure that we addressed every one of those. That may not be what the schools wanted in terms of their ask for removing this or that, but based on best practices and what other authorizers do across the nation, this is in a really good place right now, and very clear, very predictable, and not without question. Schools would know. They could do their own. We wouldn't even have to outsource it anymore. So there would be no question. I think, Dylan, do you want to just provide a little additional context to what you added in that might help them?
It's very minor. I don't think it was anything substantively.
Yeah, just might help you guys feel a little bit better about how we did address some of those questions and or comments that we received from the schools.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
well, okay, I'm sorry, Dylan. Well, no, I was gonna say, I hear you, Dr. K, and I'm thankful for you and the staff and the work that you guys have done. And I guess, as you said from your perspective, like you kind of, dot all your I's and your T's, but from what I'm hearing from the operators and other agencies like Embark and other entities, like things still need to be ironed out with what you have presented so far. And the question is just, is there time to make those conversations to be had so that they can voice their concerns and their thoughts? Because this is not something that's saying, you've had 3 comments to say that, there was concern in what we have presented so far. And so it's just kind of like, I think it's something that we need to consider tabling for a while.
Yeah, and that's certainly up to the board. I mean, the board has the final decision on that. I just want to make sure that you all have all of the information and the context around where we are and how we got to where we are, all the way back to the peer report that was several years ago, and how we've worked on those things over the years, back even when different staff members were here. So it's been an ongoing effort to get to those things that we think will help with the schools, and there won't be any question then if a school is going to be renewed or not. And that's been one of the asks to your point, from Embark in particular, is about predictability. And so we wanted to build that into the renewal process so that there is no question and it's incredibly predictable.
I think predictability is crucial and vital, and so I'm 100% in support of that. I just want to be sure that the schools have their questions, not just their question, and I know that they have the opportunity to submit questions. I want to be sure that they feel like they have been responded to personally. And if that's let's all get in a room and talk through this and explain how this is going to work. I don't want it to be just we submitted and we've taken it under advisement kind of thing.
Yeah.
I want it to be a little more personal.
Thank you. Thank you for that. One of the things I'll just flag for you, Marcy, and for others, that we did look closely at how the Department of Education uses that process for feedback when they put something out for APA. And we followed that process because we have to be very careful about putting feelings and emotions and thoughts into something. We have to make sure that what we say is accurate and it's aligned to whether it's a statute or something like that. So we were very careful about not in the public documents that you see, that we are not putting into that something that could be taken out of context, if that makes sense. So,
And-
go ahead.
Speaking from MDE's side, what she's referencing and what I would expect to come back from APA if we were to put it out for APA, is that every single document that we receive from stakeholders, be it a letter or a report or, a detail of each section, that's all would be provided to us in backup, as well as a summary chart that puts in what they pulled out from that as a comment, and then what their response is, and then what the final version is.
Through the APA process.
And that's how MDE does it, because for MDE's purposes, they're appealing to all of the school districts. So you're getting things from vendors as well as superintendents, boards, principals, all of those. So it's a similar group of stakeholders that are weighing in, and that's how they analyze it, so that the State Board of Education members can see everyone's thoughts,
Right.
MDE's response in accordance with law and policy, and then the ultimate result, which may change the policy and require it to go out again.
Sure.
That's what I would expect to see
After
the APA process.
And
As a board member, that's what I would expect to see.
Also,
as my
but
backup.
MDE manages a much larger portfolio than what we have. And it, even when you think about vendors and stakeholders, so it's like we have a small enough, portfolio to where we can kind of probably slow things down just a hair.
I would disagree.
Okay.
In the totality of how an agency has to run, regardless of size, but.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? So the motion,
Say one other thing.
Go ahead.
Concern is if we go forward with APA now, we lose some of the flexibility that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, can you say that again?
Yes, I'm concerned that if we move forward with APA as it is, we lose some of the flexibility that we have in our unique position to work with partner schools. And I love all the things that have been said about clear direction, predictability, all the things. What is also clear from today's comments is that the partner schools are not on the same page
Right.
as we are currently with the staff on these things. And so my caution would be to slow down, try to get on the same page. We may not, but try to
Right.
get everybody on the same page before moving forward.
okay. All right, so the motion was to move forward with APA.
I don't know if anyone made the motion, but I'd make the motion for approval to begin the APA process for the renewal application and guidance. Is that right?
Okay. Is there a second?
Because that's what it would be, to begin the APA process.
Okay. All right. So there's any second? All right. Fails.
You don't have to
Okay,
table
the
it.
motion fails.
On the table, say it
No,
again.
you don't have to,
Yeah.
you
don't have to bring it back?
table. You don't have to table it.
Okay.
You can just put it back when it comes back.
Okay.
Okay. The next one is that was just for,
But, and then didn't Carol second, and then we're in discussion, and then.
Is that what you got?
I thought, that's what I have.
Okay. So we need to vote then. Yeah.
Okay, so then we do have to vote.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I had to begin with.
that's what you had, okay.
I didn't remember making the motion. We were discussing it though. We discussed it for a while.
So,
Okay, well, so all those in favor
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, the nays have it, so the motion fails. Okay, B, this is to consider approval
Either way.
of the proposed changes to the performance framework and to file as proposed in accordance with APA. Is there a motion to approve this filing?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, so no second, so the motion fails.
No, you don't. We're not taking
Okay, the next is to consider approval to file ESP and CMO board policy as proposed in accordance with APA. And that is C on your agenda.
Want to talk about this one?
Yeah, because I need some, yeah.
We gotta get a motion in a second
Yeah,
first.
Okay, is there a motion to approve this filing?
Actually, before discussion, we can get some background information.
That's what I
We
was
don't have-
hoping,
We don't
'cause I
have to
don't wanna-
discuss.
Yeah.
We just need to.
So this is just a proposed policy to try to get some clarification as to ESPs, which are education service providers, as well as the CMOs, which manage the schools. Essentially, the code sets forth what is an ESP and then also requires that an ESP that provides comprehensive management be a nonprofit. And the question has come up quite frequently lately, whether or not all these vendors need to be nonprofit education service providers. And essentially this lays out when and if they need to be a nonprofit, or if they're just a general vendor like Cisco or Basis or Epicenter, et cetera.
Right.
Okay, is that good for everybody? Okay. Is the, I'll entertain a motion to approve the filing.
So moved. Marcy Scoggins.
Is there a second?
A second, Carol Gary.
Okay, do we have any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Ben.
I guess I'm trying to figure out exactly the scope of who this will apply to. And when you mentioned a few, vendors, even like Cisco, and then there was other vendors too. So we're kind of dividing on who this will apply to as far as
So basically, it's going to go to all of the charter management organizations, school design providers, other partner entities the school intends to contract with for the educational design, implementation, or the comprehensive management. So that's where they fall under that ESP umbrella. And then in that, depending on how much they provide, will determine whether or not they have to be a nonprofit or not. That's what this tries to help flesh out, because right now it's very vague.
we're trying to limit this to educational services in some form of fashion.
Yes, and beyond that, to those that are providing the comprehensive management, which is like basically the actual operator that's, a Republic would be a prime example here, not of Butler Snow or Phelps or anyone else in terms of legal services or something like that outside of that scope.
Where do we get the language in this board policy? You know, drafting this, is it from that?
Don't want to take full credit for drafting it, but yeah. kind of from my head. there,
Ben, I tried,
Looking at
but
NACSA and
but-
everything else and trying to figure out what's what. So
yeah. So I have to give Dylan credit for this one.
depending on if y'all like it or not, I'll take the credit. If not, y'all voted no. Somebody else did it.
Did we get input from that organization?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Some of that language is directly
Yeah, it's-
from,
I may not have
the
reinvented the wheel here. I may have
principles and
just copied and pasted
standards.
from NACSA.
yeah, from the principles and standards, that section 4 of the principles and standards, Ben. So yes, some of that language is directly from NACSA in terms of defining a CMO or an ESP. And some states define them differently. They define an EMO as a for-profit provider, and so that it's defined a little differently across the states. But yes, we were very cognizant of what the language says with respect to the CMO and ESP in response to our current statute.
I know, I think, Bill, you mentioned all, and I know they've got some,
I haven't personally discussed with them, but it shouldn't harm them in any way because they're already operating within this. This is really also forward thinking for some other schools that may or may not be opening. Really trying to make heads or tails on what they'll be doing for what y'all may have approved and what may be moving forward down the pipe.
All right, any other questions? Okay, all right,
I would just say, maybe this is the lawyer, and I want to study this a little more before I.
Mhm.
And that's on me for not being ready to fully do that. And that's
Thank you, Ben.
all right. Any more questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
How many was that? Was that 3? Okay. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, I'll approve. Okay, motion carries.
And this is also one that's going out for APO.
That's correct. That's right.
Okay, the next is to consider approval of a contract renewal for Cornerstone Consulting.
Yes, please.
I didn't hear what?
You got to leave the room.
All right.
She doesn't discuss it, but yeah. She doesn't need to. She's not a voting member.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
but
She's just being.
she's just, yeah, we're just.
I appreciate
I'll
that.
get to,
Okay.
Yeah.
I move that we approve.
Okay, second?
Contract.
I'll second that. Sorry.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. I'll get her back in here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, the next to consider approval of a contract renewal for US Next. I'll entertain a motion to approve this contract.
What is this again?
Do we
Is
need
this an
a
amendment? Renewal.
renewal? Do we need a explanation? Okay, is there I'll entertain a motion to approve this contract.
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second?
Second, Marcy Scoggins.
Okay, is there any discussion?
What is this again?
This is our annual support for our IT website, and they do maintenance and updates.
Okay.
Network support, yeah.
Okay.
And the cost hasn't gone up, has it?
No, I don't think so. Maybe, did it go up?
It went
100?
down.
It's the same as last year. Okay. One of them went up.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, next is F, to consider approval of the Epicenter agreement for the school year 26-27. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve this contract.
It's an annual Although there are two additional, well, let me back up and say this. They have been incredibly supportive of us over the years and have not increased the cost for us, where other authorizers are paying a lot more money. So I'm grateful for that relationship. The second thing is there is a little additional money added for the work that they're doing on our framework. So at one point in time, when all of that is said and done, we'll be able to do that through the Epicenter process and not have to use the workbooks that we use now. So it'll be much easier and simpler and much more transparent. So annual contract with Epicenter. It's our
Okay.
platform where we house all of our documents and resources.
Yeah.
For applicants, renewals, and operators, current operators.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Marcy Scoggins.
Is there a second?
Second, Aaron Meyer.
Okay, any more discussion?
Oh, sorry.
The Scrivener's, right?
Discussion.
It should be Mississippi.
Oh, is it a?
Yeah, they have Michigan in here. and-
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
I
Scrivener's.
just, I was gonna say, I have
Yeah.
just one objection to 8.4 being the
Thank
laws of
you.
the state of Michigan.
Yeah, thank you. We'll fix that. That's where they're from.
Okay.
I can't fault them for Michigan.
I need to say as amended.
Hmm?
I need to say as
We'll
amended.
fix it. I
Okay.
think it will. be
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Next, to consider approval of a contract amendment for Butler Snow. And a copy of this is on the table.
Yes.
Where is?
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
All right.
Gotta get a second for, I'm really thankful.
All right, is there a second?
A second, Carol Gary.
Who was that?
Speech is good.
All right, any discussion?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, discussion?
So it's a couple of questions. So what was Amy's role when she was working here? What was her services that she provided? I know she was an attorney, but like in what way as it relates to the charter? She was what?
Just counsel.
She was
Before
counsel.
outside counsel.
Yeah, so Amy was that, and then during that time, when we, working with Republic, then we brought on Butler Snow to help with that and
Amongst other issues, yeah.
amongst other things. And then Amy left,
Mhm.
and so, and I guess we're trying to continue the contract. And I guess my question would be, this is probably a Denise question. I'm just wondering, like, what is the difference in like, as far as when you think about the numbers of what we were paying if we had a full-time counsel versus contracting out Butler Snow?
So you want to know like the dollar amounts or just the quality? Or,
You can give both.
so I want to go back a step, even before Amy, you actually had counsel from the Attorney General's
That's right.
I
office.
remember, yeah.
And so they provided you support just for your board meetings.
Mhm.
I don't think that they came and gave you like detailed analysis.
They didn't.
I think they were just here to like,
Mhm.
take your minutes. And then you hired Amy as a
Mhm.
full-time employee. But there was a lot of things that Amy could do, but a lot of things that she didn't have the depth that Butler Snow brings. One of the reasons when you first hired Butler Snow, you picked Butler Snow because Tommy Carden is their principal. Tommy was an initial board member on this board.
Yes,
He was here from 2014, day one.
yes.
And so his knowledge of charter schools was one of the reasons that you decided you needed more help going forward. Amy came from the Secretary of State's office, so she was good at regulatory information, but she didn't have the breadth of knowledge of the education. And so then you went to having Butler Snow, who could help you through some of the framework questions, some of the renewal questions, some of the guidance that had to be developed in basis on the law. And I think for the money, I have to do the math, but you're almost breaking even because when you hire a staff person, you have to pay their fringe benefits, and fringe benefits go up this year, and so you're at about 34%. And so, yeah, of fringe, and so you're probably cheaper, now that I think about it, with the staff raises that would have happened since Amy left, and the fringe benefits, you're probably cheaper having the contract with Butler Snow and getting more breadth of knowledge.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, any more?
And I have another question. How come Dylan wants to sit in here on his?
We said you didn't need to leave.
That was a great question.
Like, I'll walk it on.
Stop that. Stop that.
That's right.
Any more discussion?
That's funny.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Can stay forever now, right?
Okay.
Got me another year.
So now we will consider the approval of a contract renewal for Capital Resources. And I will entertain a motion to approve this contract.
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second?
Second, Marcy Scoggins. Jay can have it.
Jay? Okay. Jay, is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Okay, now we'll consider approval of a contract extension for Matthews, Cutler, and Lindsay. And I will entertain a motion to approve this extension.
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
All right, is there a second?
Second, Marcy Scoggins.
Any discussion?
And this is the contract for the firm, I think, that looks at the.
They use the CPA, external CPA.
Okay, that's right. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
And I will tell y'all that it's a no-cost extension of the current year. It's just extending time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, this is item J here. Consider approval of a contract to conduct the back-to-school meeting training. And I will entertain a motion to approve this contract. Which that's the training, this like financial.
Happy to give a little context for this. This is the same gentleman that came and trained you all on board governance and oversight of school financials. This is Raj, who wrote this book here. All schools were provided with a copy of this book last year during the back to school meeting. And then he came and did the training with you all a month or so ago. And then we've asked him to come back, pending your approval, to come back and do this same training at the back to school meeting with our school leaders and their governing board chair and their financial person. He, as you know, provides a wealth of information. I think everybody that was in that training learned a lot. And we know that his primary focus is on charter schools and not authorizers, but between the two, it would be really helpful for them. So if the board is willing, I would appreciate an approval of that contract.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the contract.
So moved, Marcy Scoggins.
I'll second it, Carol Gary.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Yeah, I enjoyed Raj when he came, and I would like to see us use some more people that have a little bit more knowledge about Mississippi and the work that we do. Maybe someone that's maybe a little bit more local or in the state of Mississippi. So I would just kind of like to see something like that. So.
Okay. Any more discussion, comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Motion carries. Okay, there is on, I think, K, just letting you know the office lease has been extended. And to consider, then we have, L. Will that let you know? Did you already do that?
No, that was the amendment for the current
For the
year.
current year. This is
It is
FY
here, this is
'27.
next year.
Yeah, this is keeping him here for
Oh,
another
okay,
year.
so we consider approval of the FY '27 Butler Snow contract.
I guess my only thing to note, I don't know where it was that.
Do we need a,
Oh, okay.
I need a motion?
Well, is there a reason the hourly rate changed?
Does that need to go in
Yeah,
discussion?
the rates went up.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
I know. They did go up because there's so much work to be done.
That, well, per month.
Okay.
You guys going up, y'all are still much lower.
Is there a motion to approve the contract?
The lease for the building?
No, we don't have a cost for
The lease
that.
for the building?
It's the, yeah.
Yeah, I was
That
just making sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, we did that.
Okay,
It's no,
yeah.
there's no action.
yeah, there's no action. They were just saying.
Oh, information.
Yeah, that's just,
So what are we talking about now?
now we're on the Butler Snow.
The added agenda items.
Oh, yeah, that's
that's-
not on there. I forgot.
So.
Where
so
page are we on?
Okay,
It's
on.
not, yeah,
It's
it's
L.
it's L.
Yeah, it's,
Item L.
Does Ben and
So.
Jay have access to this stuff that we got here in our hands? Did they
Yes,
get
we-
email? Okay.
Well, I knew that Mr. Carney was calling in, so I emailed him all of the added items. I did not know that Mr. Walton was calling in, so if I need to stop and email him those, I can. But I don't want somebody asking because he can't hear me talking.
Ben, all of this backup material that was on the table today, you don't have access to probably. Jay got a copy of it because Jordan knew that he was calling in. We did not know you were calling in today. So she can email that to you now if you need it, or we can wait, whatever your preference is. Okay. All right. She can do that right now. And while she's doing that, if we could take a, everybody went to the restroom.
And Ben, just so you know, I just sent over to you, this is Aaron, just the change. It's only in the rates. It's the same legal
Right.
contract that's required by the state.
so we,
If we can, that's up to you. That's up to the
Yeah.
chair.
we can
Yeah,
now.
probably because
Yeah, I
the
think
first
so,
one
but
went
that's up
in
to the chair, but
before that
it'd be
fiber
great
was
to do that
required.
before him.
All right, okay, at this point in time, while we are taking care of some business, we will take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
And return. Rush on the basket.
Oh, I got all my yellows over there. You can have that one if you want.
I was
Okay,
just
you
too
can
busy. I was just.
One yellow.
That's what I
No,
just told her. She left the
no,
yellow.
I didn't take any of them from here. I took all of them from the,
So are there no strawberries?
no, because,
when I bring this
No,
out.
no, you're gonna finish me off.
Now you're off mute. Okay, great.
Okay,
Need to vote on that.
okay. So,
Need a motion in a second.
yeah, we were on the Butler Snow contract, so I will need a motion to approve.
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Second,
Second, Marcia Scoggins.
okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Okay, now we are up to M with the LaFleur Legacy letters.
I just say you have a copy. You want to hand those out?
All right,
Either or.
do I have a motion?
Yeah. I move that in accordance with Mississippi Code annotated section 254174D, that the board make a closed determination of the need to go into executive session.
All right, is there a second?
I second it, Carol Geary.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, everyone, can we please get y'all to exit the room so we can determine if we need to go in executive session or not? Thank you. The board has voted to go into executive session in accordance with Mississippi Code annotated section 254174D for investigative procedures regarding allegations of misconduct or violations of law. Thank you. Alrighty, during executive session, the board voted to place LaFleur Legacy at a notice of breach based on the June 1st and May 12th letters in terms of testing and all the assessment issues, and we will require a corrective action plan to follow.
Okay. All right, next, call for quality school decision. I will entertain a motion to accept the recommendation report from the third-party evaluator to deny the applicant, I believe, charter school to advance in the application cycle. Is there a motion?
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second?
I second Carol Gary.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Mhm.
Okay, and now to O, we will, is there a motion to adopt and approve the F-27 budget that we discussed at the beginning of the meeting?
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second?
I second Carol Gary.
A discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, so the next meeting, the board retreat will be held in the morning on June 16th, 2026 at 8:00 a.m. The next board meeting will be held on July 27th, 2026 at 1:00 p.m. at 239 North Lamar Street, Suite 207, Jackson, Mississippi, 39201. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Please identify yourself for the record.
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Second,
Carol Gary.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.